So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And so if it happened to me, it can happen to everybody.
Dustin, welcome to the show today.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I love real estate investing in general, all types of real estate investing. It's more of like, it's not like real estate's fantastic. It's that what it affords me to do in my life, being financially free and successfully unemployed is what I like to call it. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I love that. And the common thread really is real estate. You know, it's made more millionaires than anything else on earth. But more importantly, you know, who wants to be a millionaire? We want to control our time. We want financial freedom. And that's really what we're about. So, but you probably weren't born in real estate investing like Donald Trump was. What was your story? How did you get into real estate?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't born into real estate investing. In fact, we were like poor, like really, really poor. Grew up in a 2-bedroom house. It was like 800 square feet with my brother and myself and my parents. But so I'll jump to the end and then go right back to the beginning. So the end, when I was 37 years old, I was able to quit my job and be successfully unemployed because I had over 30 rental properties. I like residential properties. And they were making me a minimum of $50 a month. $250 a month from every door. But I'll quickly go back to the beginning. So I got to tell you the story about me getting into where I was catapulted in to become an investor. So when I was younger, I was always entrepreneurial, always wanted to start businesses. I even had a newspaper route where I rode a bike with newspapers in my bags and throwing the newspapers at 5 a.m, banging them on garage doors, waking people up. Had a graphic and website design company, had a skateboard manufacturing business, even a pizzeria and a convenience store that I all developed all those on my own, build them up from scratch. But at the same time, just like everybody, I was taught you go to school, you get good grades. Then you go to college, spend thousands and thousands of dollars getting into debt and get good grades, and then get a piece of paper. It's called a degree. And then you take that degree to a job. I call it a job. You're living just over broke. And so you take that and you hopefully get a career working 40 plus years at a place and then retire when you're 65, 70 years old on half of what you raised or you saved. This is what really got me to become a real estate investor. So I was working a regular 9-to-5 job at a local county department doing IT work in California, one of the counties there. And doing IT work, my wife and I started having kid after kid. And I bought one rental property at the time. I think I might have had two. And I knew I wanted to be an investor. But, life gets in the way. We eventually had 4 kids and I kind of stopped investing. But after our 4th kid, right when she was born, our 4th child was born, I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and bonds with the baby and helps mommy and all that sort of stuff. And then I go back to work. And in that week that I go back to work on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog, says, "Dustin, would you please come to the office?" I said, "Sure." I hung up the phone and I go to the boss's office. And as I'm walking down the hallway, I sit there and I think, or as I'm walking, I think, my goodness, why are they calling me to the office? This isn't normal. And I started remembering a couple months before I went on paternity leave, there was some rumors in the office or some rumblings going on that there could potentially be layoffs. I immediately shook that off. Like, no way, there's no way that's me. I've been here 12, 13 years. I have so much seniority. My bosses think I do a great job. There's no way. So I start walking down the hallway. And as I walk, it feels like my feet become lead bricks and it's harder and harder to walk. And this hallway is rather short, but it feels like it gets longer and longer and longer because the weight of potentially losing my job is weighing on me. Well, I get through the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door is closed. And I look at his secretary and she looks at me and she sheepishly kind of grins at me and says, "Dustin, would you please have a seat?" And she's consoling me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and take my seat. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about my life. Like, oh my goodness, I thought I had to work my life and get a career. But if that's taken away from me, was that all a waste? And then if I can't provide for my family, does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy and my forehead gets all sweaty because the weight of everything is crushing down on me. Then the door to my boss's office opens up and out walks a lady. She's a coworker of mine with a piece of paper in her hands. She is noticeably distraught, noticeably upset, not necessarily crying, but you could absolutely tell her world has been rocked. And as she passes by me, my boss says, Dustin, would you please come into the office? So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And so if it happened to me, it can happen to everybody. And so I take that layoff notice and I walk back down that short hallway to my desk and I sit down at my desk and I realize two things right then and there. Now, I could have just wallowed in it and said, oh my goodness, and just kind of shut down. I didn't. I realized two things. Number one, I need to get another job. I need to be able to provide for my family. So I was really blessed, praise the Lord, to be able to find another job in the same county, whole nother department, sheriff's department, great department, doing IT work there. So I got that one done, check. Now, the other thing, while I'm sitting in that chair, I realized the second thing. I need to make sure this never, ever happens to me ever again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I realized I'm going to tell everybody that I'm an investor. Whenever somebody would ask me the question, Dustin, what do you do? I would say, oh, I work for the county. I do IT work at the county, basically labeling or giving my value out to somebody else as my job. No, my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God, myself, and my family. And so I realized then and there that I am going to now be an investor. It may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. I'll fast forward the story. I worked for another 5 or 6 years, kept buying property after property after property, eventually got 30 plus properties. And I was like, my goodness, why am I working here? Even though I'm making $75,000 a year here, I need to quit. I'm losing money. And here's how everybody, if you get anything out of the story, you need to realize this. Your value is so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And you know this by understanding that your boss is just paying you enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money it takes money out of their pocket. So I'll round up the story by sharing, I went after I realized I had enough money from my properties, passive income, to not work. I went to my new boss and I said, boss, I'm laying you off, jokingly, but I said, here's my 2 weeks notice. And he said, Dustin, what are you going to do? And I said, boss, I don't have to do anything. I have real estate. I literally don't work and I make money. So last part of the story is I walked to my car. The very last time I walked from my work to my car, it's about a 1.5 mile walk because I was frugal. I didn't want to pay for parking. And I've taken this walk 1,000 times. Now, if you contrast this walk from me walking down that short hallway where my feet felt like they were lead bricks, I took this walk this last time. I felt like I was walking on clouds because looking back, I knew I would never, ever need another job again. So I'll pause the story and let you ask questions. You probably got lots of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. How long did it take you from that time that you started to quitting your job?
I want to say it was about 5 years, maybe almost 6 years.
That's amazing. I mean, so how did you stick with it for so long, right? Because, it's a long time and people are watching you and, Dustin's kind of crazy, right? He's crazy talking right now and he's buying a house. That's a mistake. Like, I mean, how were you able to overcome your initial fear, number one, to buy that first or house and then stick with it for 6 years?
I really thought that I was told originally, work 40, 50 years for somebody else. And I'm like, well, in 5 or 6 years, that's like a tenth of what I was going to actually have to wait that long to actually do that. So that was, for me, a big eye-opening. And then on top of that, I realized that eventually, if we play Monopoly, we'll eventually get to where we have houses and hotels, apartments and hotels, which now I actually own hotels. I'm in syndication in some hotels, which is terrific. But I realized that if I got passive income, I love passive income. If I work one time, buy one property, and it makes me money over and over again. And I realized if I I was talking to my wife and I said, how much do we need to cover our expenses? And at the time, it was like $4,200 a month in passive income to be able to cover the expenses. I realized, okay, if it's $4,200, let me do math backwards. I know I can make $250 a month from every single property. And I started investing back in 2006 before the crash. And whether the market went up, down, or sideways, I still made money because I invested for passive income, not appreciation. So $250 a month, that is $3,000 a year in passive income. I realized, man, if my boss came to me and said, hey, Dustin, you want $3,000 more? I'd be like, yes, of course I would. But then I multiply that out. If I got 10 properties at $250 a month, that's $2,500 a month without working. That's $30,000 a year. without working. 20 properties is $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year without working. I realized I could quit my job. And so after buying property after property, now I did it the wrong way. I could definitely explain how I did it the wrong way and then share you the right way now, how I do it now and how I coach everybody how to do it. But that's what I realized. The end goal is getting above $4,200 to $5,000. Now I have 30 plus properties. Each one, now I'm making at least $250 a month in passive income from every single one of those properties. And I don't work. Like a lot of people know the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. And Michael, I know you guys would definitely appreciate this. I think working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't even want to work 4 hours a month. I work maybe 30 minutes a month on all of my properties because I set up the business. I have processes and systems in place so it all works on its own. And I literally just get my property management statements, look at it, then put it down and go back to play with my kids.